of her doing these form competitions. She looks, I mean, it's incredible. So she's a legit badass. So, Marcus, do you have any history with Cynthia Rothrock?
I mean, as far as childhood, yes. I mean, like, of course. Like, I remember, I think the first movie that I remember seeing kind of in memory was Tiger Claws.
Oh,
and that was the first one. Yeah, and I could definitely go back and it'll be like a new movie to me, but I just remember having that VHS. I don't know if we owned it or what, but I just remember popping that in, or somebody popping that in at my house one night and watching that with my mom and dad. It at that time too, it was like, what, like, as a kid you go through so many stages. First you want to, you see an action movie, or you see a war movie, you want to be a soldier. You see a truck driver, you see it, over the top, you want to be a truck driver. Yes. Or Black Dog. Yep. Yes. And you see any action star, you see an action movie, and you want to go do that. And it's just like, I remember seeing Tiger Claws, and like probably that night or the next day, I was in my room, in front of a mirror and just practicing all these new moves that I was going to show to people to my friends at school when we got to school the next day, for Monday or something like that. There's certain actors who bring that to me, and I remember Rothrock being one of those people, just like, I can do this as long as I stay in my room for 6 hours, practice hard, and then go into school.
Just like Sean's brother.
There you go.
Just stand in your room and kick the air.
Some light, heavy bag work.
Yeah. And in between your criminal dealings, you're just going to practice karate in a neon day glow shirt.
Right. And have all your posters sideways.
That was a weird thing. This movie was her first U.S. produced movie she was in.
Yeah.
China O'Brien was released in the States, and it was it was produced in the U.S. However, it was still produced by Golden Harvest because she was under a 3-picture deal. So China O'Brien, while being released, this was her first big U.S., like, no Hong Kong stunts, none of it. It was just her, and she gets on set, and she starts talking about it. And she has a great interview where I've pulled some of this from with Scott Adkins. He has this wonderful podcast called The Art of Action, where he interviews straight to DVD, straight to VHS stars, Daniel Bernhardt, Cynthia Rothrock, what's his name from No Retreat, No Surrender 1? Kurt McKinney. So he has, like, just sort of these childhood heroes, at least of me and Marcus, just like, and he goes through these in-depth interviews, and they talk about the business of stunt performing and martial arts on screen, and it's really cool. So a lot of this stuff that I'm talking about comes from that interview, and of course other research as well. But her stuff about Hong Kong and how tough it was to film, like I was saying, you get hit. She talks about getting her nose busted up pretty good, splitting her eardrum after a kick. And then she's like, I get on set for martial law. And it's like, you don't want me to hit this person, really? Because she's not used to it. So she's coming, there's something on IMDb that talks about she accidentally hit someone with a baseball bat in the nuts. I can't really see where that is because she never really uses a baseball bat. But I could see, because she's like, I'm here to beat ass. I'm here to hit.
Right.
And she requests to be hit, too. She's like, can you make contact a little bit so I can, know where I'm going with my head and all this stuff. She gets really into it, and it's really cool. Then Marcus, she talks about this really crazy opportunity that she had that fell through. Have you ever heard of the movie The Executioner?
Sounds familiar, yeah.
It never got made, is why I ask. She got a call from William Friedkin after China O'Brien was released in the States. William Friedkin, if you don't know, directed Exorcist, which was huge, of course, enormous, so big-time director. William Friedkin was directing The Executioner starring Sylvester Stallone with the writing team that wrote RoboCop.
Oh.
So it was going to be this big movie. They called her, they flew her out on her day off to L.A., met, signed this contract. She was ready to do it. Movie fell through.
Did it say why?
Through.
Just fell through?
Just fell through, yeah. William Friedkin didn't like the script, which makes me think Stallone kept trying to rewrite it.
Right.
So that's kind of what he does. But
yeah.
He didn't like the script, passed on it, and was like, okay, the whole production fell apart. But she talks about the weird, crazy thing. Because she signed the contract and put it and set it aside, she got paid for the movie.
Oh, okay.
So she's like, I was making crazy money.
That's awesome.
And I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
But she
Get
talks
me into
about
one of those situations, man.
I know.
God.
Really. she talks about that sort of being a regret that her career. It seemed that she talks about it with some regret that her career never went to the mainstream.
Yeah. And I'm sure as any actor, you see the success, Van Damme, Steven Seagal, those other people are, coming into around this time as well. And it's just, you're like, I am up there with them. So what if I, don't have a dick? Why aren't I getting the same
recognition? You're far
recognition?
superior to them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Far superior. So she talks about how after that, she got this agent, and this agent was like, you're not doing Hong Kong movies anymore. And she was so fresh in the business that she was like, okay. He's like, no, you're big time now. And that agent, she says, never sent her on anything. And she never did Hong Kong movies for a long time after that. And she only did this sort of her career now, which I love. But I think she was like, I kind of wish I would have at least been like, no, fuck you, I'm going to do Hong Kong movies because that's what I love to do.
Yeah. Was there ever any mention while The Expendables was getting made that she was rumored to be going in or anything?
They talk about that, and she says, she's like, I don't get why I wasn't certainly here. I can still do everything. Like I said, she's 60, but she's got a six-pack. She's ripped. I mean,
she would play a great villain, second-hand, right-hand villain, anything like that, too.
I wonder if it's something to the idea of not, guys not wanting to lose to her. Like, if she was just or if even if they gave her, fuck it, let's give her the main villain.
Right.
Although I would like the idea of her being the secondary badass.
Yeah.
But, and how great would it be to watch her kick Stallone and Statham's ass at the same time?
Oh,
they have to go regroup, and they all have to take her on, and maybe I don't know. I would love to see it.
I would too, yeah. And she could, like we said, she's in great shape and could do it easily, yeah.
Yeah. So she is certainly one of my favorite childhood actors, and crushes it in this movie. You and I were talking about it. Criminally underused. We should send martial law to the producers of this movie.
From the very first scene that we see, and we'll go in, kind of the breakdown later on, but every fight scene with the telegraph punches, the kicks from McQueen and others too. Besides Carradine, Rothrock as well. But Rothrock just every time she gets kicked or punched, she sells it so well.
It's so clean.
Yeah, it is. And even her other fights, like we talked about, I wanted to do some research and I didn't get to it. I don't know if you did, but for Mustache Guy outside of the car dealership when they're still in the car, did you find out who that guy is?
I did not. The only other stunt, there's a lot of stunt guys on here, but I didn't get to find out who that was exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but that was probably the best fight scene. He seems like he's Hong Kong. He's seen the way he's kicking and the way they're... Yeah. It seems very much like a Hong Kong style action movie.
Yeah. She far outshines McQueen in this to me. Even his brother outshines McQueen. And like we talked about, Michael outshines him. Carradine is a good villain. I think he does great. He chews it up while he's there.
Yeah.
And
I think he becomes Carradine.
Yeah. But you just never see McQueen grow. There's never a scene where I'm just thinking about, man, what is this man's struggle? I understand what he's going through, kind of thing. It's just I never want to see him really on another scene, kind of thing.
I think the closest we get to see him act well is when he catches his brother and he shakes him against the fence.
Yeah,
that's probably the best acted scene he throws out there.
Because he sounds like Dutch when he's angry like that too, and he gets that anger in him too, and it's a good quality on him. Yeah.
So that's Rothrock. I'm sure we'll eventually do another movie with her. She's all over this time period.
Oh, yeah.
And she makes such a huge mark on straight-to-video sales. The other actors include David Carradine, kind of a legend, not really doing much at this point.
No.
And I was thinking, I don't think he would be... I would know who he is, and you would know who he is, but I don't know if he would be a legend as he is considered now, if were it not for Kill Bills.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think, I wasn't even a big Kung Fu. I've never watched any Kung Fu. Since I've been older. Series. Yeah, I've watched some since I've been older, but I never really got into it. But yeah, if it weren't for Kill Bill, which he's great in, he would have been kind of like an afterthought. And of course, his untimely death, which was, publicly kind of thrown about as far as what happened there. But yeah, it was kind of sad. But yeah, it's he wasn't doing much at this time either.
No, he had done a couple big things in this. he done some good stuff in the 70s. Lone Wolf McQuade was a big one he did with Chuck Norris. He was a villain in that. Do you have any memories of David Carradine as a kid?
As a kid,
did you ever see him?
No. I think that honestly, and this is nothing with action, but I think the first memory that I remember even knowing about David Carradine was on Office Space, when I first saw Office Space when I was in high school, and they watched Kung Fu. Him and Jennifer Aniston watched Kung Fu, and David Carradine's on there.
That's pretty great. He became, especially in the early 90s, just sort of a straight-to-video guy. And he stayed that way until Kill Bill. But he's done hundreds of movies, at least close to 100. He's fun in this. He's, like you said, he chews up the scenery. The first time we see him, he's lightly twirling a bow staff around. I would love to be a villain in a movie that gets introduced with my back to the camera.
Oh, yeah.
Always effective. I wish they did it more. He's sort of spinning this, I don't know, chair leg around in his hand that apparently has a metal spike on the end of it that we never see, never addressed. So that's Carradine. Philip Tan is, to this day, a huge stunt person for Hollywood. Yeah.
His catalog going everything from, Inception to Transformers to, he's involved with so much stuff as a stunt coordinator. It's like you scroll down his list and it never ends, too, really with how much he's done. Yeah, and that's not even his acting that he's done, too, with, Kickboxer and everything, or Bloodsport and everything as well, too.
He was a stunt coordinator on Family Matters, for God's sakes. He was a stunt coordinator on The Wild Wild West. Hello.
Yeah.
Corky Romano. Just some, random, but some Minority Report. And then his acting credits as an actor, 75 acting credits. This is all from IMDb, so it's maybe not necessarily the most specific, but what a great career. And he's enjoyable in this movie. His fashion alone.
Oh, yeah.
I was happy that he and Cynthia get the fight scene at the end.
Yeah, with him and like we talked about during the movie, too, the fight scene, the teaching with Longo and him and McQueen is that's one of the best scenes in the movie. I remember watching it too and hearing that accent and you telling me he grew up in the UK.
Yeah.
And at first it sounded I don't want to say off-putting. It was just an Asian guy.
Off-putting is fair for it, personally.
Right. It was just an Asian guy doing an accent that I thought, but he probably had an accent. I don't know if it was as Cockney as we talked about and kind of as it is portrayed in the movie, but still, it adds flair to it and it makes you remember that character too.
And then we get into Tony Longo.
Yes.
Talk about a career. This guy, we talked about how long Philip Tan, 154 acting credits this guy has.
That's crazy, man.
IMDb. And he was working basically every year since 1981 when he first did a stunt work on Tarzan the Ape Man in 1981. And then after that, just continues and continues and continues.
I think when we were watching it, it was just kind of oh, wait, it's that guy. And then, from my first memory was oh, it's the guy from Last Boy Scout when he's in the hot tub and trying to force one of the cheerleaders or whoever to go down on him. And,
by drowning her.
Yeah, and Wayans throws the football at him and breaks his nose. And
he's in Angels in the Outfield.
Yeah.
I think his name's Trisket in that or something like that.
Yeah.
He plays a space bounty hunter in Suburban Commando. He always plays mob guys. I think he's fun in this movie. I think his karate leaves a lot to be desired. You get to see him train these students, and he just sort of does these waist-high front kicks, and these people just start flying all around. But he does look the part. He looks fantastic.
Yeah, I can't believe, seeing him then, during this movie, you can tell, the weight is coming to where, in earlier movies, too, he was a big guy already. He didn't look, hefty, fat.
6'8", 300 pounds or something like that.
But, near the end of his life, too, he let it go. And I don't know, he just stopped getting gigs and just wasn't in it anymore, and it's just, that's sad to see.
He also was a legit tough guy. He won some type of early UFC version, is what we believe it is. It talks about it in all of his bios that you see online. He was a World Warzone champion not the video game.
Not COD, no.